So, hello everyone. I'm so happy to start this last meetup, Italian meetup of this way 2020. But now, today we have some super guests at this meetup. And I give the floor immediately to Medet, the community manager of Sketch, to introduce this meetup. Medet, the stage is yours. Medet, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Ah, okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Matteo. Thank you, Pier Filippo, for the introduction. Hey, everyone. I'm Medet. I work at Sketch as community manager. It's so happy to see the 100th Sketch Meetup come together, and it's even better that it's a special event with Matteo and Francesco joining us as well. 2020 has been definitely a challenging year. It challenged all of us in many different aspects, but it's so nice to see that the community is sticking together and it's keeping on organizing events, even though it's online. We try and stay in touch, and we try and do our best to keep each other motivated, keep sharing experiences, keep sharing knowledge. I think that's really important. And I want to thank Pier Filippo for organizing this 100th meetup. So thank you very much. And I will leave you all to the talented hands of Pier Filippo, Matteo, and Francesco. Hope you guys have a great event.
Thank you, Medet, for your introduction. I'm really happy to have you here with us. And okay, so wow, guys, you are so many, and I'm happy to be here with you. Today, we will see together some big news introduced by Sketch during this year. So what's new with Sketch 70? In a few words, I'm sorry, I have some problem with my keynote. Okay, some technical problem. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm here. Okay, so in a few words, there is a new big feature. Sorry, I have to close the windows. Okay. One big feature, a new UI design for Sketch. And I think it's the most UI update since years. Yeah. And while the fresh new look of the Sketch is very modern and perfectly matched with the latest macOS version Big Sur. So take a look. As you can see now, the top toolbar has completely redesigned, even the inspector panel and the other components. And as Marcelo, the design director of Sketch, said, this is an evolution, not a revolution. And that's true because as you can see, for example, in the new inspector, will feel very familiar, but every element, every component and spacing has been reworked to be beautiful, but very functional. And then I love the way that Sketch team used the accent color in the software. As you can note, the accent color has changed to match the brand colors, and that works very well even in the dark version of the software. Of course, the new icons, I love the new icons of Sketch because have a really good balance with the new team, the new Mac team and the Sketch identity. But this is just the start, because as you know, Sketch is a native Mac app, so we'll continue to evolve just like Apple's new design. So this is really the start. I'm so curious to see how that icon will evolve with the Apple symbols. And another big change with Sketch 70 is the new icon. As you can see from these sketches of Sketch, the Sketch design team has designed many icons, trying different subjects, different perspective of the diamonds, different background, different option for the background. So they did a lot of trying, and finally they found a final result. And I love it. As you can see in the left part of the background, you can see a little transparency area that let you see through. But what's more on Sketch 17? With Sketch 17 now you can create grids faster, just selecting 2 or more layers and drag the handle. You can create in the perfect grid faster and easier. But another big update in this 2020 that many of you probably already know are the color variables. With the color variables, we can use the same color for fill, stroke, and text, but the convenient thing is that we can update just one color, and the layers in which that variable is used will update at the same time. So I can change just one time the color and will update. To create a variable, there are 2 ways. It's very easy to create a new one. You can go on the color variable button in the color picker to create a new one, or related to the new component view that we will see later, you can go on the color variable tab and click on the add button to create a new one. And even for the edit the variable, there are 2 ways. And edit a variable is easier as a create a new one. You can go in the inspector panel and clicking on the color will appear a pop-up, and you will see the edit variable button, and you can change the color and then click on the update button to update the variable. Or you can go on the components view panel and selecting the new color, you just update the variable. You don't need to click update or save the change. And you can even use the component view also for rename or group or delete the variable and the other components that you can find in the components view. But if you are working on a pre-69 sketch file, so you didn't work with variables, you can use this plugin from Sketch to convert your colors in the document in color variables, and it's very fast. So as you just saw before, there is a new way to see all the components in our file. Yes, because clicking in the tab icon in the left corner, you can see a new component view. This is a new home for our components in the documents, and it's very easy to use because inside of this component view, you can find a different tab, one for symbol, text styles, layer styles, and color variables. And using the search field, you can find easier the component that you are looking for. But in this component view, you can see the component from other libraries. For that, I use the insert windows. That is a new feature from Sketch that I use because usually the libraries includes a lot of component, and I don't want to search a specific component through endless menu lever. So usually I press C on my keyboard or select the insert window from the menu, and I select the component category. For example, if I need a specific component in a Sketch Ambassador library, I select the symbol. After that, I pick a library. So in this case, Sketch Ambassador, and after that I search for a component that I need, and I can drag directly inside the document. So this speed up our workflow during the design process. And now I would like to tell you about Sketch for Teams, because during this year, I worked with a lot of designers that use Sketch, but didn't know Sketch for Teams. And I think that every designer that use Sketch could use Sketch for Teams, because first of all, the cost of the license is the same, but the most important thing is that you can share your documents with your team, with your collaboration, but you can share the documents even with your stakeholders, with your clients and other people. And during this year, the cloud was improved a lot. So now, for example, you can open your Sketch documents direct from browser, and you have a better control of your version in the browser. That's because when you start to work on a project and you work on it for a while, the number of the version can become big, and not very version is helpful for you. So you can delete the version that you don't need to see in the history. And trust me, this is very useful. There is a new folder where the file can stay for 90 days before to be permanently deleted. So you don't lost accidentally your files. So to be honest, I'm really amazed by the update and the huge changes that Sketch did in a very short time, because they did a lot of things during 2020. And I think, and we will see very soon with Matteo and Francesco, how the new features introduced by Sketch will shape a completely new workflow for designers that use Sketch. So guys, the most waited moment has come. Now we will see together how to applying the atomic design method. We can create with, of course, the feature that we saw before, how to create and manage a design system with Sketch. Okay, so now I give the floor to Matteo and Francesco. And of course, if you have some questions about what you saw in my presentation, or if you have questions about what Matteo and Francesco are doing, you can write on the chat and I will reply to you, or I will ask to Matteo and Francesco to reply to you. And the last thing, at the end of Meetup, there will be a surprise for you. So stay with us until the end. Okay. Matteo, Francesco, the stage is yours.
I just wanted to say one quick thing. Filippo, great job. Yeah. Really great job. I mean,
okay, thank you.
Really great presentation. Thank you so much. I might steal this from you for, I'll get the I'll get the keynote. Sorry, Matteo, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Filippo, for this introduction. Super clear, and also helps with what I'm going to present, because I'm going to use some of those features like color variables, etc. So I'm going to share my screen. At the moment it's empty, no worries. Will become busy soon. So what I want to talk about today, and I don't have a presentation nice like the Filippo's one, is about design system and how to manage them. There are a lot with Sketch. there are a lot of different ways and approaches you can have. Luckily, you've got the freedom to do and to organize them in a lot of different ways. I'm going to propose and show you 2 different ways I'm using, and then I'm going to create live like a button library, and then there is a tiny surprise in the end about that. So let's start. I'm going to open my Sketch documents, and I'm not in Big Sur at the moment, so I don't have the nice new UI that Pierfilippo showed us before, but it's still very useful. And those are all my teams, and we are working on teams, of course, every single day. Just one tiny advice. I'm still receiving people that are asking to be admitted, and I'm the only host of this meeting for technical reasons. And so sometimes maybe I have to click somewhere else and I will interrupt. So what I want to show you is how I manage libraries. And there are a lot of different approaches. The approach that you probably everyone knows is a big UI kit, a big file with everything inside. You've got your styles, you've got your layer styles, color variables, etc. And then there are other approaches where you are going to split and create a more granular organization, which is actually the way I'm used to manage libraries. You can go crazy as I'm going usually, so you can split everything up in the atomic way that Pierfilippo showed us in the end of his presentation. So you can subdivide everything in very small library, super specific, and based on one single element or atom, etc., and then molecules and so on. Even when I'm going very granular, usually I prefer to have an approach a bit more pragmatic and not to be so strict in the atomic design framework idea. So I'm talking about components. If a component is related with one area, even if it is more like a molecule or an organism rather than an atom, I will put them in the same library because they are a lot easier to be found by my designers, etc., etc. And so usually I'm starting from the very basic libraries, which are the most important for me because they are the libraries that inform and are used everywhere else in the system. The first one that I'm usually creating is the color library. It's been opened, sorry, in the other screen. And all the libraries for the entire system will be available and will be organized only in this library. No other library will have a specific style, color variable in that library specifically. So everything should be related with this one. And the reason is if I need to edit one color for brand reasons or for any other reason, I can change it here and it will be spread out all over the system. Just to show you, this is the component view that Pierfilippo showed us in the old view, not in Big Sur. Here is where I organized and I have all my color variables. And as you can see, I organize them already as design tokens. And the reason is usually within a design system, we are very connected with developers, and developers got one way to approach the variables for their code. And the more we can be close to their way to name them, the better usually. And also in the cloud inspector that we have, you can find the color variable's name already. So the developers will have the strict connection with what they need. This is just my approach on how to name the variables. Try to be semantic. As you can see, this palette is not perfect because color warning is still too close to primary. Yeah, it is not perfect. This is a work in progress, and you can see how I'm working on it. I'm also having variants for the brand color because I need darker version or lighter version of the color, and I will have the same for secondary, etc. for everything. I'm trying to be to maintain those files small now because they've been made for the purpose of this presentation, so they already have a lot of elements. On top of them, I'm also creating my layer styles. Sometimes those layer styles are reflecting the color variables itself as it is, and in those cases, I'm just using the same nomenclature because this is my preference. I prefer to have styles for everything, even if a color variable could be enough. But when we need also borders, for instance, I've got all the styles that will have both color, field color and border color coming from the color variables. So for the developer, again, this token could be also a sum of the two variables that we saw before. And this is actually how they organize usually their code. There are a lot of approaches in the token area. We can talk about that for like 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 days. This is how I usually approach that, but it really depends on how your company is managing them, your developers are managing them, and this should be something that you are organizing with them as well. Because designing and organizing and creating a design system is not only a design and UI project, is a service project, and it will involve at least designer and developers, usually a lot more, and other people. But this is a big other topic. So as you can see here, I've got all my styles. I created all of them. Also the text styles, they are available here. And as you can see, I've got this text error, text access that actually have the same color, then color primary, color error, etc. I usually prefer to create different styles with the same color library applied. And the reason is for us designers, it is a lot easier to be focused on something. So I already created here the styles for the buttons for all their states. And the reason is, even if this color button primary default is the same than the brand primary, this is specific for the colors. Sorry, for the buttons. And actually, here I made a mistake because it's not attached to the color library, to the color variable. But I prefer to have them duplicated in some ways because they are anyway connected with the color variable. And if I'm going to change the color variable, it will be changed everywhere accordingly. So every time I've got this color, if I'm going to change the color primary one and I make it like purple, and then going back to my layer styles, I will find that color primary is now purple here, and it will be purple also in the buttons, etc., etc. So every time I'm going to change one color, it will be reflected everywhere. Sorry, I'm going to make Command Z because I don't want to have this purple color applied everywhere. In this case, because this is just a color library, I don't have any text style. Actually, I imported them by mistake, but I will delete them. And the symbols are just the symbols that I'm using in order to create like a style guide or a reference for the colors. This is just the way I'm approaching the thing, because I can export it. People in Sketch for Teams can see it from the website. Let me see if I can show you. Libraries, colors. Yes. Sorry, I'm just moving here. So Sketch for Teams, this is the Sketch for Teams view, and everyone can just check this page and see in place. And so also a viewer that doesn't have access to Sketch can access this page and double check everything and also see guidances, etc. This is my approach as an example. And yeah, and I'm going crazy with those kind of things because I also have typography, and typography is for text styles only. So here I've got no colors, and again, I imported things, no layer styles, but I've got all the text styles. And I organize the text styles in the same way, so they are design token ready and for the developers, so then they can read them and use them as much as they can. I create the groups just for my developer, my designers, so they can easily recognize what they are going to use. Sometimes I'm creating extra levels of groups, because at the moment we've got everything attached in one style, and it really depends on how you're managing things. If you've got a very strict code where you've got everything related in just one design token, so your text will be your text token will also have the alignment inside. This works well. If you've got the alignment as an external design token and developers can manage it in a different way, this is something that will arrive. So, and also here, I've got the same approach. I've got the typography page that you can see in this Sketch for Teams, and you can read the design token names, the font family that is used, and all the sizes, etc., and where you can apply it, and which kind of styles you can apply it over it, etc. Of course, I've got also my previews. I've got tiny libraries that I'm using, and that actually my designers shouldn't install and use, because they will have this reference with like a broken link in the library, but it doesn't make any sense for them to install like the preview library in order to see that. It's just a way for me to organize and maintain those things in one only place, and to edit them easily if I need to. And you can see that I've got this library is available here, like library previews, but I'm installing it as a design manager. Nobody else will install it. I also have a tiny library that is prototyping. I will use that one later. So I'm going to show you what I have here. It is a library with just 5 symbols inside, and those symbols are the hotspots with target none and the right animation that is named in the hotspot, and I will use that in the buttons I'm going to create live later. Nothing else in this library, just those 5 items, and you will see how I'm going to use them. And then I got icons, of course, and we can create as many libraries as we need. Another approach is to create like a core library set, which in my case is the sum of colors and typography. Could be also colors, typography, icons, and prototyping, and all together, because this is the core of your system, and everything else is built on top of it. Someone is called them fundaments, someone is called them in other ways. With Francesco, we define them as core, because for us it's a very good way to express what they actually are. So I'm going to open this one, because in the example we're going to show later, we are going to use this as a base. It is exactly the same thing that we had in colors and typography. Actually, I'm going to close them. Don't save. But they are put together. So you've got your color list, you've got your typography, and in the styles, you've got all the text styles, all the layer styles, and all the colors in just one library. This approach could be useful if you are using plugins that helps you to swap between themes. It is a lot easier to manage to swap themes when you've got everything that is related with the theme in just one library. There are a few plugins, maybe we can talk a bit about them later, but this is a big topic nowadays, how to swap between different themes, and this could be an interesting approach. The most important bit is that usually you've got the same names and the same structure in the files. There is another approach with a plugin that Francesco did that maybe he can show you later if you want, or if you got time, that instead is using the names of, like, you know, light instead of dark, and you can swap between the two or stuff like that. So I've got this core library. I'm going to close also prototyping. And now it's time to create our actual new library for buttons. I just created the library on the cloud. It's an empty file, so I'm going to open it. Should be empty. So we've got only the the preview page, and there is nothing else in the entire file. So I'm gonna do it live. I am using the buttons as an example because they are a quick win when you want to showcase how useful could be a design system. Is something that you will have more or less in every single page if you are doing something in web particularly, or in an application. Maybe a mobile app will use them a bit less usually, but it still is quite a quick win. And we've got buttons everywhere because this is the main interaction we have in our pages usually. One thing that I'm a bit stressing everyone about is about naming properly pages, naming properly layers, naming properly the artboards, the symbols, etc. Because if you start to do it at the beginning of your work, it will be helpful for the rest of your life and the maintenance of the system. Because one of the biggest problem I faced in my life as a design system manager has been maintaining the files, not creating them. Creating them is easy and fun. Maintaining them is a lot more hard, and it will bother you a lot. And if you've got everything named in the proper way and organized in the proper way, you can use plugins or other things that help you to make bulk actions and other things like that. Moreover, if someone else should manage your files, they can read them, instead search for rectangle 1, 2, 3 and understanding what and where they are placed in the system. So this will be preview, and I'm going to create a new page, which is buttons. And usually I'm doing like something like that, standard or default, or yeah, buttons in general, because I'm not going to create too many pages today. And I'm starting literally from scratch. So I'm going to create a rectangle, which is like 40 pixels high. And the size at the moment, I'm going to place 160 as an example. I want to have circular corner button, so I made the round corners here, and then I'm going to apply my style, which will come from libraries core, buttons, primary default. Done. I already have my background for my button. The last bit is to rename it. Usually we are using icons to do stuff like that, and then background. My lower capitals, just because I want that. Background. Perfect. Then I have to create my text. I've got plenty of ways to do it. One way that is useful is to open our insert panel that Filippo showed you. I can search for textiles, or I can go directly to the textiles. I know where I need to go, but I can also search here, and it will be button. And then I've got button primary default. Perfect. I'm going to place it here. Done. I got my textile. I can type this. This is my button text. And I got my text for the button. One thing that usually I'm doing is place here a placeholder that also tells my designers like the maximum number of characters you can use, or something like that. But this is really up to you. Could be in the documentation, could be everywhere. I prefer to place it here. The other important bit is if you are using capitalization for every single word, if you create a button with 2 words, do it. Because it clarifies to your designers how they have to write your text. So you can use the default text in your buttons to showcase how to use the system. This is very important because it will help. your designer to make better decisions. The other bit that is important is to place the text in the proper place. So just select those two and place it in the center. Then the text, I will place the text with the right padding I want, because I want to create a button that will be stretchable, that will be reusable, but I will have the same padding every time. So 16 pixels, I can place it at 16 pixels here. I can already create an artboard around, but I'm not doing it now for just to showcase something. So this is 16 pixels here, and now I have to change the size of this one, which is -61 plus 16. If you didn't know, in Sketch you can calculate as whatever you want. There are a lot of functions here. I will showcase them later if needed. The last bit is to rename the text. Again, our icon, place my text, and this is text. Done. I've got my button. I can create my symbol, and the symbol is button default with an smart layout options, horizontally send layout, and I will create automatically in the symbol page. Okay, perfect. So this is my example of button, and then also I can test it if I want, because I should be able to change this text in the overriding option and make it shorter. This is home. I write it wrongly. And the padding is perfectly working, and it seems working properly. I can also swap to disable status. Of course, with disable status, I have to do something else, but I will have a look later about those things. I can test it how it is when it's pressed. I can test when it's tabbed. I can see when it's hover, etc. Just to check how it works. And then I can go in the symbol page, and I can make some adjustment if needed. And actually, I want to do some adjustment. The first one is I want a minimum width, because I don't want the button to be too small, even if I have a super short text like home. I don't know, maybe 120 pixels, 128 pixels or something like that, 96, whatever is the minimum size that you want to have. And the other bit that is super important as a design system manager is to manage the overrides. I don't want anyone to change the text value, the text style, and actually I don't want anyone to change the text, the layer style as well, and I will talk about that later. But in this case, when a designer is managing that, it will resize automatically 128 pixels, because the text is too small, and the only override option I have is actually the text. Everything else is not available. The reason I'm doing that is because I prefer to create the different states here for all the buttons as symbols, and let the designers change only the override only the minimum options possible, and everything else will arrive automatically if they swap between the different states of symbols. And I will showcase in a bit. What is important now is that I've got a standard button. I want also a button with an icon. What I'm usually doing is just duplicate a button. I've got to rename it. And actually here should be icon default, and this is button on text only, text default, etc. And of course, the more you're growing up your system, the more you are developing your files, the more you will encounter issues in naming properly the elements. So at the moment I'm doing it live and I'm not thinking too much about them. But as you will see, I will replace them continuously because I'm going to add other things, etc., etc. So now I need to add an icon here. I can press C again. I go to my symbols. I've got my icon library. I'm going to the smallest one. Why only two? Because I didn't turn it off. And I'm going to take my, I don't know, one symbol. Let me see the entire page. I'm going to use this one. and I'm going to place it here. I'm going to override the color to be my white. And I'm going to put this at 4 pixels. Actually, I don't know if you know, but with Sketch now you can also edit the amount of pixels that with shift arrow the things are moving. Instead 10 pixels, you can go 8 by 8 if you are working with an 8 pixel scale. So you can go in preferences, and here you can decide with shift arrow the amount of pixels you want things to move. Okay. Oh my God, so many people that are asking to be admitted and continuously distracting me. It's difficult to follow my process. Then what I'm going to do here is adding 16 pixels, and I'm going to stretch my background, and I'm going to rename this to be icon. And the other bit that is important in this case is I don't want the icon to be stretched in any way, so I have to put it in fixed size, and I want everything to move together. So if I'm stretching it, the button and the icon should stay together. So I'm going to group them. Content. Oof. And let's see one thing. And I have to do one other thing, that is this one, is to put the group in fixed size in here. So everything will stay together when I'm going to create a button. And now I can test it. The other way I'm inserting symbol is here, just because it's easy. I only have 2 symbols. I can do that. I can stretch it and see if it remains together in the center. It happens. I can change the text. Home again. Of course, it will resize it because I've got out smart layout, and it stick to 128 pixels. So probably this one can be like 96 because it's without the icon. I can go back and resize it. Okay, so they look better together. And of course I can change the icon, etc. In this case, I can also override the things. I will leave also the color for the icon available, because it can happen that this is a bug that we have to correct. But if I set a color for an icon and an icon doesn't have that color set, you have to reset it for the first time you're using the symbol. Okay, so we've got our first 2 buttons. They are working. They are organized. There is one thing that I noticed out that I wanted to create, and I mentioned it before. I want to create something that is helping my designer also for prototyping. So I want to add a hotspot in the background of the button. So I'm gonna search for my prototyping options. I usually prefer to use the instant hotspot as default, because then a designer can decide whatever they want to use. But and it is possible to swap them. It is important to note that there are a few options in this case. If you want for the buttons to have an instant actions every single time, you can lock it down to be an instant hotspot, and designers can only link the button to some other artboard. Otherwise, you can. So from here, in that case, I will lock the symbol, so nobody can change the symbol from being an instant hotspot. The only thing that they can do is link it. Another option is to leave the symbol available, and they can swap between the different hotspots. What I'm starting to realize directly when I'm doing that, let me also rename this as well, because I'm a bit OCD. Oops. Here, hotspot. Perfect. What I'm starting to noticing is that I will have a hotspot here, another hotspot there, and then I'm going to duplicate everything again and again and again. one thing that I'm usually doing when I'm creating a library is to create some even more atomic symbols that are like the references for all the symbols that I'm using in my library. So I'm gonna create a symbol here, and the name is background. Actually, I'm usually use like XX background, and XX is subfolder of the library that all my designers know that doesn't have to be used by them directly in their designs, because at the moment we don't have any way to hide those things. So I'm going to create this background here, and this background contains my background, my hotspot. Actually, I name it wrongly. I can go crazier. Usually I also create it for the text, but I'm not doing that now. What is interesting is that now I can use this also in my default button. I can remove this, and this will be resized. And of course, I got available my hotspot and my link to as well. And then I have to define, again, I can decide here what I want to be shareable. I don't want anyone to change the layer style, but in this case, I want it available because I'm going to create the other states. I can decide that, okay, my button are only instant actions. So I will remove this from here and it will be reflected every time. I don't want anyone to change this layer style as well. For the icons that's available. Perfect. So next step is to create the other states, as easy as duplicate the elements. This is hover. I'm going to change the background, and I'm going to change the state, the color for the background, and that's it. This is my hover, and I don't want anyone to change the background style. So I'm going to lock it, and I'm going to lock it here as well. Perfect. Then I'm going to do the same for the pressed. And it's as easy as that. I got the pressed, and then I got the tabbed. Oops. And I have to go here, change the to be tabbed. Let me check one thing. Yes, that's perfect. And then the last one is disabled. And I have to change also the text style, because I've got white background in my background. I know it because I created it. Oops. Okay, perfect. Actually, this should be with a different, I have to create the proper style. I didn't do it. So just for now, I'm gonna change the opacity of it, maybe 40, but I will for sure have the right style for that. For the purpose of this presentation, I'm just gonna do it super fast. And then I'm gonna do the same for this one. This will be hover. And I'm going to change the background to be hover, etc., etc. So hover, pressed, and disabled. And here I have to change a few things because I have to change the icon. And I got the style that is actually disabled, which is here, but I don't have the text style at the moment with that. I can create it, but let's do the same thing I did before. So, and finally, I got the background disabled, and I think the background symbol shouldn't be swappable as well, because I don't want anyone to edit it or to remove it. I can do it actually in instead with one click every time. I'm going to show you the slowest one way to do it. But then I can go here in the buttons. I got my button, I got my text, I got my hotspot, and those are the only things I want my designers to have. And then from here, I can swap between the different styles. So I can swap to be in hover states. I got the hover states, and the designers will follow this structure as well. One thing that now we noticed is I didn't create any extra layer of folderings for these buttons. Usually it is useful to create the proper folder list. And again, the reason is it is a lot easier for me to swap between a few number of items that are related one within the other rather than within a big list of things. So what I can do is to go here. Actually, I thought I had, where is it? Francesco, no, it's sidebar, collapse or group. I did it, but I made a wrong shortcut. Perfect. So what I can do is just to do that. There are a lot of plugins. You can, I'm going to add to one that I'm using the most for this thing, which is rename it. What is rename it? If anyone can see it. As you can see, I've got a lot of them, but they are all disabled. Can you see it? Yes. Plugins, rename it, rename selected layers. And then you've got layer name, you maintain that, and then I'm adding an extra level of nesting, and this is button icons, button text. And then I've got, actually I don't need the three layers because I really don't. So I'm searching for button / text and then translating to button text. So this is not a double folder. I'm going to do the same here. Oops, find replace, sprung one. Rename selected layers, layer name, and I've got button icon. Okay, so now if I'm going here, I should be able to see only the 4 that I actually need to see to swap between. Okay, so this is how I usually manage a library and the creation of a library. One thing that I'm usually doing is renaming also this page or having more pages. I've got one page that is for all the actual servicing symbols, and this is the actual symbol page. And I've got in the buttons page the actual button symbols. I'm using also plugins to reorganize them and make them in the proper order with the proper spacing. But yeah, that's up to you. Another bit that is important is those are my primary button. I also can have secondary button. I can have other buttons, etc., etc. One nice thing of having this way to organize them is that you can reuse things in a lot of ways. You can duplicate the library, and with just a few changes, you can have a completely different style and look and feel. For instance, if I want to, instead having circular borders, to have squared borders, I can change this one. And now all my buttons are squared. Just go back to the circular one for the purpose of this presentation. We can have the same thing for the text. We can have the same thing for a lot of things. The other interesting thing is this, because this library is related with the core library, if I'm going to change something here, again, I'm going to change the color primary to be like a fuchsia like that. I'm going to save it. After a while, it should be updated. Let's see. Library updates available. Boom, everything changed. Everything that is related and contains the text styles, or the text styles, or the text, or the layer styles, or the color variables related with that library has changed. So of course I didn't change this text style because it's related with a different variable, and of course it's not been updated in this case. I'm going to do Command Z here and Command Z here as well. So we are back to our core libraries. Francesco, are you ready? Yes. I'm now. You can be unmuted.
That's
cool, perfect. So I'm going to open another page. This is something different. As you can see, I'm not doing anything. My hands are here. Francesco is on the file. I can see what Francesco is doing. This is collaborations. Sketch presented it this Monday. We are presenting it to you today. We can see what Francesco is doing, and I'm not doing anything again. I can jump on a different page and then follow Francesco and see what he's doing. Yeah, collaboration. Everyone is on the same file. Pierfilippo presented Sketch for Teams previously. Everything works within the cloud and is synced through the cloud and is coming back to my system. What is nice is that it is super fast, so it is actually a real time rather than if you are going to update very big images. And the reason is we are going to upload to the cloud only the small changes you're doing, and when you hit enter or when you exit from one layer that you were editing. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I can move it because I'm not on my laptop at the moment. And it is interesting because we can see, we can follow what the others are doing, but I can also play with the file and change my things in the same time. There are no conflicts, and so if I'm gonna change the things from here, or I'm gonna create a new page here in the artboard, in the canvas we are working together, I can do it. So I'm gonna create an artboard, iPhone 12, I bet. Yes, so this is my login page. I will rename it as login. And I can create a login page, and I can import the button I just created. Actually, I have to add the library here. I didn't do it. As you can see, the libraries that are coming from the cloud are visible from here. I didn't save it. Yes, I bet I saved it. Let's do something like that. Yeah, it should be available now. Sorry, here. See, I've got my buttons. I'm gonna import my button here, and this button should be centered. Could be 0, 100%, minus 32C. Oops, okay, and here this is. It will be resize it. I had to do it before, so this is login, and then I've got my hotspot, and I can say, okay, let's go to Francesco. I think we have to rename the second homepage where you're working on. I'm going to rename it for you.
I did already.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. I called it homepage model, but I'm not sure.
No, okay, it's fine. Now it's something different because I did it up over you. Okay, so now I can select what I want to connect this with, and if I launch the preview, I have to go to my login page because it's not set as a default page, and then I can see that it is working. So actually I have to make this page as the start point. It is important to showcase that you've got different starting points here. You can have as many as you want, and in the Sketch for Teams prototype view, you will see the different starting points as different prototypes, so you can showcase different flows or different views, etc., based on that. I don't know, Francesco, I'm not as good as you at creating pages. So So this is could be 100% center.
What are you trying to do?
No, it's fine. Just playing.
Okay, no problem. I just added a second modal and started to show that I'm adding things to the screen, but I think because of Zoom a little bit, it's not coming through. I added some elements on top of the.
Yeah, we saw it. I'm gonna add the hotspot here as well on the plus button, so you can use it.
And I created another button too next to it, but I don't think you're seeing my changes at the moment.
No, I see them, but I am in the button library hotspot. Now I got this one here available, prototyping, instant, add it here. And this is 0, 100% by 100%, just because I'm, again, a bit OCD. And now this button here will go to that page. So the hotspot, because now is available, will be 1.1 homepage, and it will work. And so we can go to that page as well. And if you're going to tap on this one, because it's the same button just rotated, I can say go to previous artboard, and it automatically go to the previous artboard. If I'm going to preview it, again, we had the login page. We're going here and type it, and it is going back. Oh, the rotation, I didn't test it. Okay, perfect. I think we are in the end of this presentation. I'm super open to any question, to any, and also Francesco is here to help me to reply. So Pier Filippo, I'm going to mute you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, from the chat, some people ask what are the best practice for taxonomies and how we can organize the components inside of our libraries.
So best practices for taxonomy is crazy. It's a topic that is quite hot at the moment. There are a lot of interesting articles. Again, it really depends on how also you organize your code. And to me, as you can see here, I prefer to give my designers something that is more ready to use. So I'm not gonna ask them to select this one, and when you are gonna create this, you have to change the override for the background, and the override for the text if needed, the override for the icon if needed, etc. I prefer to give them something that is more ready to use, not only for buttons, for everything, of course. So I end up having a bit more options, but those options will be more helpful for my designers. There are other things that you can do in order to help them, which is, for instance, you have to decide how crazy you want to go in creating big organisms that can be reused. There are cases where you want to have big things that, because they are not changing too much, so you've got smart layout that will help, and you can create things. There are other cases where you got so many options that this is not manageable, because you will end up to have super crazy things that is easier to develop them rather than create them in any tool in the end. In those cases, for instance, I created plugins that could help. One thing that I didn't showcase are assistants and plugins. This could be for the next meetup because it's a big topic. But it is, for instance, you can create, I created a plugin that helped my designer to create the table rows in the proper, following the proper pattern that we decided to use as a best practice. So I didn't have to create, actually I calculated how many, I had to create something like 3,000 different symbols with all the different options for rows, because you could have 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, etc. You could have different kind of cells, you could have different kind of things, etc., etc. I prefer to create a plugin that did it for me, and instead creating a million of stacks. there are a lot of approaches about naming things. My suggestion when you are managing a design system and many people are involved into it, make a good exercise with your designers. As a designer, go to them, investigate if what you're using is understandable, and try to understand what the best way to name things is for your company and the people you are working with. Because this will change continuously. It was different in all the companies I've been working with. In one company, we had like filter buttons. In another one, we had chips as the name of those kind of things. In one other, we had tags. So, and that was the common language that that company knew. And how can you change it if nobody can then understand it and use it and reuse it? Developers needs to read our files. Also, project manager usually need to read our files because they have to create user stories for the developers. And maybe we have also just to have a conversation between us and we have to understand it. Or if the company is very big, there are a lot of people that maybe are not in direct contact with who's creating the design system. And in those cases, it's even more complex to create and understand which the common language is. So my suggestion is do a big exercise with them. I don't know, Francesco, if you want to add anything about that.
Sorry, I was replying to Chiara in the chat. And I got a little distracted, I must say. I was focusing on abstract.
No problem. I don't have the chart in front of me, so okay. And Filippo, what was the second question? I don't remember.
Francesco already answered. Already replied.
But we should talk about it because it's a question that comes up quite a bit, right? When you're talking design systems, meaning the question is, I don't know if everybody can see the chat, is if you're using Sketch plus Abstract right now, and you see live collaboration happening for us, or you see design system manages this way. So all the rules that Matteo defined in terms of best practices, let's say you're not using Abstract, so you can still use them. And even if you're using Abstract, you can define all these different libraries and they will keep working the same. The main difference is if you're using Abstract, you're probably distributing the libraries through Abstract. If instead you're using our cloud, you would be using the libraries through our cloud. Yeah. There's not really a huge advantage having a hybrid solution, meaning where you have libraries on both platforms. And depending on what features of Abstract you're using, for example, if you're using branches heavily, that is not something that we offer yet within the Mac app. We'll allow to have more control over what's published through so let's say you are working on a library, you'll have a way to have a working version, if you will, and then something that's published so that others will see, but it's not to the level of nuance that you have with Abstract or with Plant or things like that. So it depends on how you're set up, how much you're using Abstract. There are some people now that are using Abstract just to be able to collaborate on the same file, just because for a while we didn't have a good way to do it. With live collaboration, it will be much easier to have your files always in sync and saved on the cloud. So I don't know, Chiara, if that answered the questions. I know you might not be able to unmute yourself, so any sign on life in the chat or anywhere will help. And I see.
Yeah, actually, the way you are managing the files in Sketch is completely agnostic of the tool that you are using to share the files. So the way you are managing the libraries in Abstract is could be exactly the same in Abstract. I had Abstract in one of my previous companies and actually introduced it. I was an alpha tester of them. And my libraries were completely subdivided in tiny atomic libraries. So I had color, I had typography, I had icons, I had buttons, I had forms, I had everything. Yes, I have to find how to unmute people. The problem is that because I'm presenting I'm showing my screen, I can't see all the Zoom features. So in the meantime, I'm doing that. Please, Filippo,
I can answer.
In the meantime, I will ask you another question about from the chat. Daniel asks if in the future the collaboration will be available even in the shared library via Dropbox or other tools.
Not through. I'll answer that one while Matteo tries to.
I think that you should be able to unmute now.
Okay. Basically, in order to have live collaboration, you need to have a cloud, right? That allows us to. Vai, Chiara.
Vai, Chiara. Chiara, we hear you now. Sorry.
Chiaramente io avendolo avuto, in teoria non dovrei riprenderlo nel giro di un mese, perché dovrei avere gli
I think she is talking with someone else because
she didn't know it was muted. Okay, so let me answer the thing quick about basically to do live collaboration, you need our cloud because that needs to go through a cloud that our system understands in order to be able to then broadcast the changes to every other client, meaning any other user that has the Mac app. So at least in the short term, I will not be able to use Box or Dropbox or anything else. In the future, we might have APIs, the cloud APIs. And if these other tools decide to implement it, that might be a way to kind of allow you to keep the files elsewhere. But at least for the short term, it will be only through our Sketch for Teams.
Yeah, one thing that I want to stress about is Sketch for Teams is not on top of the Sketch license. It's an alternative of your Sketch license. It costs exactly the same. So it is not something that you are going to pay twice.
And Matteo, they were saying there's multiple Chiaras on a call. Probably there's other Francesco, which makes sense, being Italian. There's probably a lot of.
Actually, I unmuted everyone. I think that everyone should be.
Okay, so if you want to say something, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I made it.
Okay.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry for the confusion.
No
yeah, no, the question was really about abstract because right now in the team we use abstract and the branches, yes, but only because we don't really have the live collaboration. So maybe I was thinking that with this collaboration live with Sketch could actually replace the branches because we're all working in the same document.
Yes.
And yeah, my manager really.
If that's the reason you're using abstract, this is definitely.
Yeah, that's mainly the reason. Yeah, it's mainly the reason because my manager really hates abstracts. It's really expensive and it's not super user friendly, I would say. And then another question, since I'm mute, it would be: is it possible to leave comments and any type of feedback within the file, just like abstract does?
So it is currently possible on Sketch for Teams. So you can write a comment here, and this is related with every single page you are on. From Sketch for Teams, you can see all the pages, all the symbols. And actually, if I'm going back to our old documents, very bad. My first page here, you can see that we've got 2 start points, and you can see the prototype here from here. And you can go in one page and comment it in the page. You can see that you also have versions here as well. And you can write a comment, and there are threads, and the next step, because annotation is something that we are working on right now. So it will arrive, you will have annotations. I don't know exactly how it will look because I'm not in that team, but you will be able to annotate on the artboard, and all the viewers that are able to see this page and you're sharing this file with are able to annotate. And then the third step, actually the second step in that case, will be to have the annotation visible also in the Mac app.
Yeah.
We're going to do it in steps because we really want to show things. Francesco wrote something and also mentioned me. If you mention someone that is in the team, that person will receive a notification, even if the notification are off for this file, etc., etc. You can follow or unfollow. things, and I can reply. At the moment, it is not directly related with the artwork, so you can say, I want to change this title with a note here. This is something that will arrive. But yes, you can, and from here you can also, you can inspect it, and you can download the assets that are available, etc., etc.
Yeah, and it will also be available for stakeholders.
Yes, because you can, there are a few options in this case as well, because with Sketch for Teams, you've got contributors that are actually your designers or people that need to use Sketch, the Meetup, I mean. And there are viewers that are people that are stakeholders in general, that can be part of the team, and they don't pay anything because they don't have access to the Meetup, but they have full access to the cloud, so they can see this page, they can comment it, they can, if needed, download the assets if they are developers, etc., etc. And the third option is you can invite someone just to one file. This usually is used for people that are external from your company, and you have to share that file with, I don't know, a collaborator or a developer that is external, an external stakeholder, a client, etc. And you can send them a link and invite them.
Yep. Okay, great. I think we will change from abstract.
No, you can see that in publicly. I'm joking.
Thanks for your time.
Pier Filippo, any other question? Because I'm not reading the chat.
About prototyping, but Francesco already replied to it.
Okay.
The states, the hover states is a very hot topic for
in the
future.
chat.
Yeah.
I imagine that. Yeah, it will arrive. It will arrive. We will have the states. Can't say anything more.
Okay, so if there aren't other questions, we can extract the lucky participants. What do you think about Francesco?
Well, no, yeah, you definitely go ahead. I also have, the surprise that Matteo mentioned in terms of for the winners, and I can show that, or I can save it folder. If it's not too complicated to share my screen today.
Maybe I don't remember about extra gift. I know about the licenses.
The licenses, and Madet asked me to also basically announce a special surprise. So when you get the third,
okay. So let's start with, now I check if I insert all of the name of the attendees in the wheel. Now I check. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, maybe there are some names more, but in case we can turn around the wheel again. So now I share the screen with you. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go. Hey. Okay, so Simone wins a license, a sketch license. Okay, so Francesco, we have 2 licenses, right? Okay, so again. Alessio. Oh, sorry. Okay. Is Alessio and Simone in the call? Okay. Yes, Alessio and Simone. Okay. Okay. Nice. And Alessio and Simone, you can write at my email your email so I can share your contact to the Sketch team and they will send you the license. My mail is this one. Okay, so you can write me at this email and then I will share your contact to the Sketch team. And Francesco, what's the special gift for?
Let me see if I can share my screen.
Okay.
Hopefully that works. So here you go. I don't know if you can see.
Whoa.
So this is especially a special edition of a poster we made. And so the lucky one will win this poster. Obviously, we'll send it to you, and it might take a little bit to get there, but this is a poster we made for, to celebrate the fact that we are a Mac app.
Nice, nice. So, okay, let's go. I share the screen and now discover the lucky participant. I can't share the screen.
I'll stop sharing.
Can you? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, Daria, is Ilaria in the chat?
Sure, she is.
Okay, perfect. So, Ilaria, you can send me an email with your address in this case, I think, and then the sketch, we will ship to you the poster.
Yep.
Okay, super.
If we have another moment, I can show very quickly something I was putting together while we were working. As Matteo said, we'll show another way to do theming or to swap libraries.
I was sure you were doing that.
Yeah.
when I saw the file with just home page as it was before, I said, okay, he was doing that.
One more thing.
Yes, so let me see if I can share my my screen. Let me hide this and a bunch of other stuff. And I swear I'll share. Today is dramatic to share, really complicated to share things. So let me see. Okay, here we go. Let me bring up the beta and Zoom. And here we go. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So Matteo showed one approach, which is the one having, separating libraries, and that works great in a big environment where you want to keep things separate, and there's huge benefit in doing that. There's plugins that he mentioned that allow you to swap elements from using one library or another, like Camilo, for example. And one other approach that can be also just a temporary approach, which allows you to design things as you're going, is to have, let's say, multiple, colors, let's say a dark theme and a light theme within the same file. And then at some point you can decide to separate it into separate files. But in the beginning, it allows you to keep things very easily in sync. Because you can, duplicate one item here. You can even actually select two items in both color pairing and duplicate them, and now name them as tertiary. And so, you are adding you could be adding other colors. Let's say tertiary, I want to make it, I'll choose a grade for now. And this might be even similar for this. But let's say these are the colors I've defined. At the layer style level, I could be defining background colors that are dark and background colors that are light. The only difference in naming conventions here is that you're starting from with dark. The root of the theme identifies that. You could also otherwise put them, depends on how your theme is. If your theme has really almost every style divided this way, which is where the dark theme is a clone of the light theme, this is one good way to identify the two themes. Otherwise, it could be that you, let's say, do shadow dash light, shadow dash dark, if that's the only thing that changes, or only some elements change within your theme. And same thing for textiles. This is obviously the simplest textile, like I only have H1 and H2 and a body, just because I wanted to show how that could work. When I go, so this is really simple, but it's just a card that has a title. In this case is an H1, and a rectangle that has the background applied to it, as you can see here. Now, let's say you design all this artboard for iOS, and you want to show both the dark and the light version. You just go and say, okay, now I want to make this light, and I'm going to now change all the styles. You could obviously go and change the styles one by one, and go here, and I could choose light. In this case, I'm looking at the dark styles, right? So I could go into document, light, and then choose the equivalent, right? And then do the same thing for the background. So this, light, and then choose a background. And I have that result. And this here is just 2 layers. But if you want to, you can automate this. And so you can just select these 2. And in this case, this is a plugin I created that allows you to define a theme. So in this case, you can define 2 themes. You could decide dark and light. You could decide to have dark, light, and also dark high contrast, light high contrast. Depends on how you're designing your themes. In this case, I'm keeping it as simple as possible. Really, I just have 2. Once I defined it, and I have to do it once, I can then go and decide to swap themes here. And I'm going to say, I want to go from dark to light. These are the settings where these styles were dark from the dark theme. So if I do this, we'll actually swap everything. And so now I have the design just with a new theme applied. If these were symbols, I'm going to call it card here, just making a symbol. If there's were a symbol here, I could also apply the same changes to create now let's say this is the light theme. I'm going to make it dark. And here I'm going to call it light. And somebody asked about naming conventions before. One thing to keep in mind, you probably know already, the slashes in Sketch allows you to organize things, and that works across the board, from symbols, some textiles, and also for color variables. So if you want to group things, you can do it with a slash, or you can just select 2 things here and say Command G, and we'll group it, and we'll create a subcategory. So that's exactly the same thing. And you can always Command Shift G and ungroup. Same thing you would do in the layer list, right? So from here, I can decide to now swap these again and swap themes. And I'm going to go, in this case, from light to dark. So when I do that, that swaps. So now I have also a component within the same library that has basically for the other theme. At a certain point, I can decide to separate these. So you could decide to then distribute to completely different libraries. But this can be a quick way to, you're creating a component in one library. Now you need to create a component for the other theme. That's how you could handle it. And the plugin also recognizes the plugin also recognizes the name of symbols, and will swap also symbols. So in this case, if I go here, I can have a hybrid situation where I have, let's say, I'm dropping in from this document a textile. Let's say I'm dropping in an H1. And if I select this 2, I drop something here, select these two, and I apply the plugin, will also swap the theme from light to dark, and will work for both the text layer and the symbol. In this case, I probably messed something up here, the plugin, but the point is, we'll look at everything being text layer and symbols and textiles. It doesn't work yet just with swapping color variables by themselves, but as Matteo mentioned before, color variables usually should be used within text and layer styles, right? So you can apply more meaning to those and indications to the rest of your team on how to use those color variables. That's with larger design systems. So it depends on how strict your system is, right? Like there's where you are in the maturity of your system. There's sometimes you don't know exactly all the rules. Like one funny thing is, right, when you're designing a new system, there's some things you will need, and there's some others that you'll have to kind of figure out over time. So as your design system mature, you might go from just having color variables to then having the styles, and then maybe adding to more elevations as you realize that you need more components. So that's something I wanted to point out. Okay. Actually, I think I figured out why it wasn't working before. I had selected two elements here that were from a text layer that was outside the artboard. Any other questions? I just want to make sure we don't go on.
Yeah, we are more than happy to reply questions if we can.
Ilaria, thank you. Ashley, thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. And I don't know. Yep, Filippo, if you want
guys, thank you to everyone to being here with us. I'm very happy about this meetup, our last meetup of 2020, but of course, there will be a lot of meetup in the next year with other super guests as Matteo and Francesco. And of course, if you have questions about what you see today or about other topic about Sketch, you can write me, and of course I try to reply to you, or I ask to Matteo and Francesco help. And well, from the chat, they ask if the presentation will be available later. I think yes. I already don't know where we can share, if we can share this meetup, but of course, as soon as possible, if possible, I will share with you. If you want, you can put the like to the Facebook page Sketch Venice, because I'm ambassador of the Metropolitan. I'm sorry. I'm Sketch ambassador of Venice. Okay, and so you will find a Facebook page, and you can put the like, and I will put every update about Sketch in that page. Okay, so
yeah. One thing, if you want to reach us out, me and Francesco are every time available. Also, you can find us on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much there. So please feel free to contact me, to write me a message. We are happy to reply. And also Francesco as well, of course. Yeah, thank you very much for having us, Pier Filippo, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you to you for joining us.
And I hope it was helpful for everyone.
Bye, guys.
Ciao, thank you so much.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye, everyone.